On this hill was the last stand of Genti, an Illyrian king, the last Illyrian king. There was a fortress here. The Illyrians, they loved a bit of piracy, and the Romans, they always disliked it, their ships being attacked. So they decided to put an end to it. And this, after many battles, Genti was chased down to his fortress here. He was eventually captured, and that was the beginning of Roman dominance in this area, 168 BC. He's also believed to be the only Illyrian king that minted his own coins. And when you pick up a 50 lek coin, have a look on the other side, and there you'll see Genti. I think that's a fitting tribute to him. The first Illyrian king, the only Illyrian king, probably that minted coins. That's where he belongs. That's for you, Genti. There's a legend attached to this castle, a famous legend, and the reason why it's called Rzaffa Castle. There were 3 brothers in the long distant past who were building the walls. But every day when they returned, the walls had collapsed, and they'd build them again. The following day, they'd return and they would find them collapsed. They didn't know what to do. But an old man told them the way to fix the problem was to bury one of their wives alive into the wall. He said, the following day, the first wife to arrive with your meals is the one that you are to bury. But they had to swear an oath to each other that they couldn't tell their wives. Unfortunately, the 2 older brothers told their wives, and the following day, the younger brother's wife appeared with their meal. Her name was Rzaffa, and she was told her fate. She took it without resistance or crying and was buried into the wall. But she said, I'll do it on one condition, that a hole will be left in the wall for my eye to see my child. A hole will be left so my breast can feed him. Another hole for my foot to rock his cradle, and another for my hand to comfort him when he's crying. So, somewhere in this area, in this part of the building when you enter the castle, it's believed that she was immured somewhere here. And people say that today, milk still seeps from the castle walls. The first time I heard that story, I thought, well, we always believe some part of a legend, and there's always some sort of truth. But when you come here and you see this, it's like milk running down the walls. Rzaffa, forever captured within inside her castle. Looking east from the castle walls, I notice extensive construction in and around a building of importance to Shkodra. Intrigued by the activity, I decide to head down for a closer look. Well, here we are down on ground zero at the lead mosque, Shume e Plumbet, in its Albanian. They're doing a massive project here with being funded by the Turkish government, because this mosque is so important, and it's great that it's being brought back to its original condition for the people of this community to worship in, and also it's going to be open for tourists to come and see. The symmetry of the mosque is what gives it its beauty, and every stone is very similar in size. All the stone came from a village called Guriazi. It's about 2 kilometers to the the south. And the stone, the legend is the stone was passed hand by a human chain. They probably used carts, I think. But it was built in 1773 by the local ruler of this area. And he lived in the castle up there, Bushati. The engineer that was in charge of this project now was telling me that the building was so well made that the foundations had no problems whatsoever. I've been coming to this mosque for years. I've been inside many years ago, lucky me. Lucky you guys too, because it's going to be open to the public outside of worship times if you come to Shkodra. But many times when I've come, this field all around us has been flooded with water because you have the Drin River coming down the side here and the Kiri River also, the confluence is just slightly upstream. So when it rains and the snow melts, this whole area goes underwater, and so does the mosque. He was telling me that the floor of the mosque had silt about 50 centimeters under the floor before they put concrete on it after communism. This mosque was closed during communism. From 1967 onwards, it was illegal to practice any form of religion, and this mosque closed. The imam of this mosque was imprisoned, as was the Catholic priests. The Catholic church is just the other side of this hill. This was the old city of Shkodra on this side of the mountain, of the castle. On the other side is where we'll find the new city and the lake, but this is where the first city was. These walls, I'm told, in this particular area that we're standing now, go down 40 meters into the ground. The membrane is a concrete plastic that is about 60 centimeters thick to stop any moisture coming through and destroying the foundations of this mosque. As you can see, it's below the level of the land around it because over the years, with the silt building up, this field has increased in volume and come up above the mosque. He said the mosque was so well made that there was no damage to it whatsoever. They had to rebuild the minaret because in 1967 it was destroyed by a lightning strike. Many people say it was destroyed by the communists because it's the same year that religion was banned. But the people of this community will tell you that it was actually rufe. It was a lightning strike that hit it. So they had to rebuild it. Interestingly enough, they had to use photographs to replicate that minaret. And where'd they get the photographs? From the Murubi Gallery, one of the great collections of photography in Albania, which we'll be visiting later. And that's a good point to move on to that after we've been inside this mosque. 2 more interesting things about this mosque. One is, I'm a big fan of Edith Durham, who's an English writer. She came to this part of the world in the early 1900s, traveled a lot through specifically Northern Albania, but other parts as well. She was so loved by the Albanians because she stood up for their independence. She voiced her opinions to diplomats. Back in London at the conference there in 1912, she stood up to say Albania is a country and it needs to have its own identity and its own sovereignty, which a lot of the other international powers weren't in agreement with. She also started the Anglo-Albanian Association with another Englishman. So she was allowed into this mosque. There were lots of consulates here because this was an important city and a lot of foreign consulates. And a lot of the consulates wanted to get inside that mosque to see it because it's such a special mosque. It's unique. There's no other mosques like this in Albania. It's Ottoman in its design. Bushati wanted to have a mosque that was similar to the regal mosques of Istanbul to show his prominence and importance in the area. That's why it has this Ottoman architecture. It's not like the one in the center of Tirana that is much more Albanian in its architecture and other older mosques in Albania. This is very unique. It's a beautiful mosque. The symmetry is fantastic.